here again for another book review, and that's going to be for Frostblood by Abbeyleec. I'm going to do the same thing I did as last year, where I made a book review for every single one of my anticipated reads, and this was the first one I've read this year, so you're going to get a book review from me. This book was so good, and even like better than I expected it to be. I had like hopes for this book to be like a really cool fantasy book, and then I read it and I was like blown away, like another 5-star book, and I just loved the premise, the idea, the character. This book was so amazing and I loved it. I'm going to tell you guys now, there will be spoilers in this video just because there's a few key things in the plot that I do want to talk about and like get my feels out about, but you've been warned. So if you haven't read this book, probably go away now and come back and you can watch this review. But let's get into this. In this world, the land is called Tempesia, and there's 2 races of people, which are Frostbloods or Firebloods. So Frostbloods can obviously control like ice and do different powers, and they're very cool like people, like pun intended, but they're very cool people and they just like the cold. And Firebloods are able to control flames and be able to keep things warm and to heal with it. These 2 races are total opposites of each other, and like about 1 million years ago, whenever it was, they were like worked in harmony. Even though the Frostbloods had more of the land, Firebloods could coexist with them and help them with plants and growing and everything. But at one point the Frostbloods decided they didn't want the Firebloods there anymore, so they pushed them out and pretty much killed them all. So the Firebloods are in their own like little area across the sea, while the Frostbloods have completely taken over. And the main character, Ruby, is a Fireblood living in the Frostblood's world. She was born there and she just has Fireblood abilities, and she has to hide her abilities in a world of frost. I have to say, the world building for this book was really not even that hard to understand. Like, there was nothing too complicated. There's only 2 power races. There's only a few areas that you're really going to know, and it's just about learning about the like life stories. You learn about the 4 gods that like made the world, and they're the reason the Frostbloods and the Firebloods are here, and why the darkness is here, and why like the Mother of Earth does everything. Like, it's really simple to get into, like really easy to get into as well. And I just thought the world building elements were really good for a fantasy book, when most of the time it's confusing as heck. I really loved Ruby as a character, and I really liked the fact that she knew that she had fire abilities, but she didn't know how to control it, because the fact that she had to hide it is she never got a chance to actually properly learn to control it and how to use it. So she's had like a few outbursts where she might try to use her power and it just overtakes her and she can't do it. So I thought it was really interesting that we had that element, and even though she's been hiding it for so long, Frostblood still came to her village, killed her whole like village, killed her mother, and took her to prison, and she was there for 5 months. While she's in prison, she really starts to grow this like whole revenge plot, because she wants to kill the king, she wants to kill all the guards, and it's really annoying for her too, because she gets sort of tortured because they just chuck cold water on her. They're always chucking ice at her, and it's really hard for her to stay warm when she's always cold. But in the middle of the night, after 5 months, when she's got a bit crazy from being like alone for so long, is Brother Thistle and Arcus, who are 2 guys, 2 Frostbloods, come and get her out and bring her to the Abbey. So this was really interesting when I was reading this book, because I'm just like, ooh, who are these guys? Where are they Frostbloods? Where are they helping her? Like, it really intrigued me and made me want to keep reading the book. So it was really cool. Like, Brother Thistle helped her train, Arcus helped her train as well, and just I love the fact that she finally like got to learn how to use her powers, and she was eventually like put into these like pits, like with gladiators, how they'd pit them against each other, and whoever won would be like free, like gladiators are like slaves. That's I learned this in school, but it's just remembering like having all these like people who were slaves, and whoever wins would like eventually get their freedom. But I really enjoyed her character and like her growth, as well as becoming this like really like kind of useless person who doesn't know how to use her abilities, to becoming someone so fierce and just kicking butt, and I liked that. I also really loved Arcus. He was just so good, and he's like typical, you know, fantasy guy that's brooding, doesn't want to show himself, doesn't want to reveal anything about himself, and just hates the main character when they first meet. I love this hate to love thing. Like, they always hate having to drag them around, having to save them, having to do stuff, and then just eventually they'll start telling you stories about them, they'll start getting into your heart, and just I loved him so much. And I really thought like the whole book, right, is I'm just there thinking he's obviously gonna be like the son of the king, he's gonna be there, he's got to be a part of the royal family, was my instant thought. And I was so excited for the fact that he kind of was, like, because with Arcus, the thing with him is he always wears this mask like over his face, because like about like 6 years ago he was burned by a Fireblood, so like he doesn't have an ear, he's all got the burn marks all over himself, like his eye doesn't, like he can't really see. And it's just, it was really interesting having this, like, because with Ruby, the first time she saw it she was kind of like but it wasn't from like fear fear of him looking so like deformed, but more of the fact that her powers could do that to someone, even though it wasn't her. It's still pretty bad thinking about it, like. But what happened with him is he was the eldest son of the king, and then his brother was like, I don't really want you to be the king, so he kind of executed him, and then like the dad died and then the brother became the king, and everyone thought that Arcus was dead, and he's like, oh, let me find his name. They probably have like full-on name. Yes, I'm just having a look and I found his name. So he's Aurelius Arkansas, son of Acor, eldest brother to Ramses. I live to fight. He's the Frost King. Oh, so they're probably a Fire King and Frost King, but like he has this cool title. We're gonna stick with Arcus here, but I really loved him, and it's just the fact that he loved Ruby so much. Like he's just so adorable with his affection for her, and like when they first kissed, and I just, at the end of the book, this is like literally my favorite thing. Like on the last page, Ruby's like, someone told me that affairs between Fire and Frost never end well, and Arcus is like, I doubt you're kind of been together often enough to answer that question. I'm convinced the throne has a hand in the death of the Fire Blood Queen. I don't fear your heat and you don't fear my frost, and besides, when it comes to you, I like to be burnt. And I'm like, oh my god, yes, like I just, that, like I love to be burnt. It reminds me of in Wrath and Dawn with Carlo, where he's like, where like Charles, he's like, are you really ready to be burnt by my love? And he's like, yeah, burn me. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm here for that. I really loved this book, and just the whole plot and just the idea, and just how there's like this underlying tone of like darkness in the book too, because like with gods and stuff, there's one did the frost people, one did the fire people, one's like, I'm gonna bring all these dark weird monster things to the life. So what happened though is like the gods eventually managed to like contain them all except for two, and one's in the frost throne and one's in the fire throne, and the one in the frost throne's out, and now they want to get the one on the fire throne, so it's very confusing. But I really just enjoyed the fact that like with Ruby is she's like the perfect vessel for the darkness to go into, and like she was all like, no, you ain't taking me over, and Arcus is like freaking out. Now I'm freaking out, like I'm thinking she could die, and it didn't happen. And the best thing too is like with the second book, Fireblood, it comes out only 9 books after the first one was published, so it's like November, and it's not that far away. Like normally it takes a year at like minimum for the next book in the series to come out, so I'm really excited this one's coming out so soon, and it's so good. Just, literally everyone needs to read this because the characters are awesome, and like literally there is an Abbey in this book as well. Like I mean, I love it whenever I see my name in books, like even though it is like a nunnery, it's not actually a person called Abbey, but it's a lot of good stuffs with like the people who are like the monks and stuff, and I just, oh my god, this book was so good, and I think everyone should read it, and I just really enjoyed it, and just the powers in this were so cool, and I really loved like the like whole training thing happening with like Ruby, and just Arcus, man, he is such a great character, and I loved it so much. This book was so good, and everyone definitely should read it. But anyway guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you later. Bye!